Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome into the Buddhist Biohacker. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Lisa Gunshore. I am your host. Please don't forget to click subscribe if you haven't already. And I don't know about you guys, but I am so excited to be back with Satyam today. He is one of our favorite featured guests, and I missed you, so I'm glad to have you back.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Wonderful to be back and to be communicating and getting another show going and exploring another topic. Just a pleasure to be back. Absolutely.
I love it. And I love the topic today. I actually love yamas and niyamas. It was my favorite part of yoga teacher training. And I have a lot of juicy stuff in here I want to ask you about. And I know you have a lot probably to talk about. So we have this is a juicy, yummy topic today. And for everybody who's in the audience, don't forget to post in the live chat. We love to hear from you. Go ahead, Satya. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, I was just concurring. Please continue on. We'll get going. Go ahead.
Well, I have a little thing I'm going to read about yamas and niyamas that I thought was so good and one of my favorite things. And hi, Anne. Welcome in. Welcome, everybody. It says this: our bodies have a tendency to move toward balance. In science, this is called homeostasis. We each have within us a natural wisdom that guides us towards healing and wholeness. Just by turning our attention toward the yamas and niyamas as we move through our daily lives, we open up to the journey of coming closer and closer to realizing them.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah, that's a good opening, a very good opening.
Yeah. So do you want to dive in? Because I think it's good to explain what yamas and niyamas are for everybody who's like, what the heck are we talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's demystify this.
Yes.
And so our topic is, let's do a little lead into the topic. Everyone knows what yoga is, or most everybody, but sometimes our definition or our understanding of it is, relayed with a particular, sometimes with a class or yoga posture. And a lot of people say, I want to know yoga philosophy, or I want to learn to take my practice off the mat. And the topic of Yama and Niyama is the ideal segue and channel for moving off the mat into the world, as well as into the philosophical realm and into certain spiritual aspects as well. It is just such a great dynamic platform to expanding what we know about yoga or what experience. So it's a great, and this is, so for anyone who wants to know, hey, how do I practice yoga off the mat? Or what's the backbone of yogic morality or conduct and philosophical foundations? Then this is all embedded in Yama Niyama. And so let's go into it here. Now, one of the things, and I'm not a big pronunciation guy by any means, but sometimes it's good to know where things come from. And in Sanskrit, when the Y starts the beginning of the word, it has a J sound. And so actually, it's not yoga, it's jog. if you go to India, go to the Himalayas, it's yoga, not yoga. And now it becomes Americanized or world, things, pronunciations change over time across space and all that stuff. But when Y is in middle, it's a soft Y. So with this particular topic, from the traditional pronunciation would be Yama and Niyama. So the second Y in Niyama is soft because it's in the middle, and the Y at the beginning for the Yama that's why I'm saying it with the J sound.
Oh my God, I love that. I didn't know that. So I'm so glad you shared that.
Yama and Niyama.
You've been posting in the app like all of the Sanskrit how to speak in Sanskrit and different words. And I love it because I think the potency of correct pronunciation with Sanskrit in particular is so important because of the energy. So I love that. Learn something new. I like it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. And what you said is true about with mantra and different things, that pronunciation has meaning and the sound has value, no doubt.
Yeah.
Right. So when we talk about Yama Niyama, what are we talking about? And if we were to distill it down into one word, we would say there's a word in Sanskrit known as samyam. S-A-M, long A, and Y-A-M-A, last A is pretty much silent. And that means regulated conduct. And that's really what we're talking about with Yama Niyama. And then, so what type of conduct? Well, there are 5 yamas and 5 niyamas. And the 5 yamas are our relationship with the world around us. And the 5 niyamas primarily concentrate on our relationship with our inner world, our inner self. And so, and for those who want more of a configuration or where this sets within yogic philosophy, Ashtanga Yoga, which means Asta means 8, Ang means limb. The 8 limbs of yoga, which were codified, not invented, not discovered, not realized, but codified by the great philosopher Patanjali about 2,200 years ago. The first 2 steps are Yama and Niyama. They're the first 2 steps of the 8 limbs of yoga. And the third step is the asana, which is the physical postures. So these are, here you go. These are your 1, 2, 3, Yama 1, 2 Niyama, and third is asana. That's the batting order for the Ashtanga Yoga codification of the 8 limbs of yoga. So these 2 they're right there. This is like premier information about expanding our understanding of yoga. So we got 10 of them, and we need to get them all in. So let's jump into it here. Otherwise, I'll just keep talking in generalities. The first one, so we're going to go through the 5 yamas at the beginning. The first one is ahimsa. Himsa, H-I-M-S-A, in Sanskrit means harm, to inflict harm. And the prefix A in Sanskrit is just like English. It means not. It means negation. So ahimsa, not to inflict harm. Just like in English, we say typical and atypical. Atypical means that it's not typical. Same thing here. Ahimsa means it's not himsa, it's not harmful. And the yogis say that we should live in a way not to inflict harm on other beings to the degree that we can. So it's not a absolute that you can inflict harm, because that's an impossibility for human beings. When we breathe, we kill thousands and billions of microbes and bacteria just by our breathing. So what are we going to do? We're not going to breathe so we don't inflict harm on the microbes. So by life, we harm other beings, but that's okay. This universe, this cosmos is built like that. You can't tell the tiger not to inflict harm and not to. That's its natural propensity. It has to make one kill. But as human beings, to the degree we can't, then we should refrain. And there's a lot we can do in that regard. So, okay, so what does that mean? What does that mean? That it means that we should not do emotional harm to others, right? We see that, and that is such a tremendous impact in the world today, that people out of mean-spiritedness or out of greed or avarice or jealousy or different things, people, they feel like they got, to inflict harm, they get a little bit of self-satisfaction. Well, I got that person, right? Well, we should rise our minds up above that tendency to get joy from someone else's suffering. It doesn't happen often, but sometimes, there's a lot of emotional pain out there, and that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is the food we eat. To eat in a way not to inflict harm on as little harm as possible. And this comes up with, in terms of practical application, that the yogic recommendation is to follow a plant-based diet, because not to inflict harm on those more sentient beings that have much more a sense of self, or they have a greater sense of self, a greater sense of their life, and they'll protect their lives. And so that the vegetarian or plant-based diet is very much in accordance with the policy or theme of ahimsa, of not to inflict pain. And I know some people will say, well, hey, you're also killing the vegetable. And the response is that human beings have to live off of something. The yogis say we get energy from the air, from the light, from water. Well, we have to take some type of substance food, at least at this point in our manifestation. And if you've ever picked a tomato off a leaf or pulled a little carrot out of the ground, it's not a harmful experience. There's not pain, there's not blood, there's not screaming, there's not squelching. And to let that tomato rot on the vine, then it becomes a sad scene. Oh, look at all the rotten vegetables. Who didn't neglected the garden? Whereas to pick them and let them ripen on your window, it's quite a happy and very sentient manner, as opposed to physically forcing an animal to go against its desire to live and that type of so that would be the response. Oh, well, vegetarians also harm. It's much less. Those vegetables have a much lower sense of self and a much less developed ego, as opposed to a dog or a monkey or a cow or so forth. Yeah.
I'm glad you shared that, because that's important for people to realize, because you can get caught up pretty quick in what you're doing and what kind of harm you're causing and how to counteract that. I think I can get mentally tangled up in it.
Yeah. And the yogis are big on that everything should have a logic and reasoning to it. Nothing should be imposed without, so everything's open for discussion, and we can see, so it's very much but there should be a logic and a reason. Nothing should be done just out of tradition or out of blind following. But yeah, that's the sense with ahimsa. And
well, and I have a quote.
Yes.
And a couple activities.
Oh, good.
Practice ahimsa. I thought this could be my contribution today to your team.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Carrie. Carrie just sent us a super sticker and a donation of $20. So thank you so much for doing that, Carrie. What a treat and a gift. So thank you, and to all the members. And for those of you who are joining in the conversation, as we go through these different jamas and niyamas, I'm going to say this right now.
You got it.
As we go through these, I'd love to hear, how you're inspired. Here's my comment about ahimsa, my quote. It's by Thich Nhat Hanh, which I can't ever say his name right either. If in our daily life we can smile, if we can be peaceful and happy, not only we, but everyone will profit from it. This is the most basic kind of ahimsa. So that was cool. And here's a couple of activities you guys can do. So if you want to practice ahimsa, because I think, I don't know about you, Satyam, but the best part of going through any kind of yoga training is practicing these, putting them into your daily life. So one of them is when you catch yourself having a negative thought about anyone or anything, including yourself, stop and turn that into a blessing, a prayer, or a call for the highest good of that person or situation. You can also let yourself be still and go into the silence of timelessness at random times throughout the day. Practice remembering that all of life is unified. So those are a couple ahimsa practices.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. And I find that when people practice ahimsa more, they become a more peaceful person. People feel better about themselves and their activities in the world. And those quotes work towards that. And I appreciate that. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Well, we'll march on. And if anyone has any questions, we can always backtrack. But it'd be a shame if we only got through 6 of them. So, yeah. So yeah. So we'll march on, and there's always more to be said about any of them. So we'll go. The second one is Satya, Satya. And this one, we need to spend a little bit of time on this one because it's a little bit of a nuanced point. Satya means benevolent truthfulness. And that means to think, speak, and act for the welfare of others, as opposed to the Sanskrit word rita, which means factual truth. And most of the time, Satya and Rita work hand in hand. That's to say, most of the time, we're always telling the factual truth as we should, and that works for our own sense of honesty, and it works for our own sense of speaking for the welfare of others. But there are certain occasions where we should not give the factual truth. And people like, wait a second now. I hear the big, the liar, but here it is. This is the one that I found to be the most convincing and clear. And most people would follow this without knowing the word Satya or anything. They'd say, this is the logical, reasonable, rational thing to do. Suppose there's a woman or someone, an older person, we can say grandma, and she's in her last dying days on this earth. She's has disease, and she may be, and she's not leaving the hospital. She's not leaving her bed, and she asked about her youngest son, and her youngest son got in a tragic accident yesterday and died, and her days on this earth are limited. And she says, "How's Tommy? That's my youngest baby, even though he's now 55 or 60. How's Tommy? Please tell me. I want to know how he's doing." Are you going to say to her that he died yesterday and that he got smashed? Yes, he's fine. He's doing so well. What is the need to put her in anguish in her last days on this earth, which might even expedite her passing or give her such torment and pain that she cannot pass peacefully because she's so distraught and got into such a severe depression that her son predeceased her? These things come on. So there's no need to tell her the factual truth does her a disservice. It doesn't rob her of anything. It robs her of her peace. But so there are certain times in life where saying the factual truth does not speak to that person's welfare. If you're speaking, Satya does not go hand in hand with selfishness. If you're manipulating the truth for your own selfish gain, that is not Satya. It has to be for the other's welfare. So any of the political shenanigans, the financial shenanigans, the Wall Street backdoor dealing, all those things, they have nothing to do with Satya. If you're protecting your own greed or your own avarice, your own self-interest, forget about it. But if you're speaking to the welfare of others and you need to massage things a little bit for their welfare, then that's the proper spirit. And that's why. So our sense of when we talk to others, we can't always just stick to Rita. We have to contemplate and see what's the best thing to tell that person.
Yeah, that's good. That's good advice.
Yeah.
I'm looking here. There's one quote here. It's actually from the Guru Gita about Satya. This truth moves and does not move. It is far and near. It is inside all of this, also beyond everything. I am unborn and undecaying, without beginning and without end. I am the unchangeable bliss of consciousness, smaller than small, greater than great. Existing even before the beginning, I am everlasting, radiant, and pure. I am beyond space, immovable, blissful, and imperishable.
Nice. Yeah. Satya, that aspect deals with the eternal, no doubt, and what is true across time and space, and what exists. Nice.
Yeah. Well, and there's a difference between honesty and truth with a capital T, right? There's like,
right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Ultimately, we're with it's that eternal. The abode of Satya is that eternal entity, or that supreme consciousness, or right, no doubt, that force that unites.
Yeah. Well, and I have a little activity for this if you want to do. During the week, when you receive texts or phone calls, use them first as a bell of mindfulness. When the text notification goes off, take a deep breath in and out. Observe whether responding or reacting will take from your present state. And if you are operating from a place of truth, then respond mindfully as you can in the moment. If you answer the text or phone, observe that you are truly present and honest with the person you're communicating with.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. And those things, the good thing about something like that is it may seem small, but if you do it once or twice or three times, it builds momentum, and it will become we'll all become a little bit more cognizant, aware, conscious, and mindful about our communications. And that's a good one. Yeah. Okay. Number 3 of the Jama is Asteya. And that means non-stealing. So not no stealing, but non-stealing. And it's the idea that it's one of the more straightforward ones, because we all know, hey, don't take stuff, don't steal from others. Most people know that. But the yogic ideal is don't even harbor the idea of stealing. So stealing can exist on 3 levels. Some people will say, I'm not going to steal that, I'm not going to get caught. And then other people will say, I'm going to hoist that because I know I can do it without getting caught. And then there's those say, I'd like to steal that, but I'm not going to, but boy, would I'd like to have that thing. And the yoga idea is to be satisfied with what you have, to oppose exploitation as needed, but to not harbor any idea of stealing, not taking that which is not yours in this universe. We all, either as kids, if you ask me, hey, do you ever steal anything with a kid? It happens, But so it's just something that, but usually I think most people, as they get older, it becomes one of the ones that I think folks grow, they do pretty well with it. We don't see too much, but it does happen on a, if we want to consider what stealing is, we want to consider overuse of natural resources, corporate greed, not paying taxes, all that type of stuff. Then the point becomes quite vast. It's no longer so complex. Okay, who's going to get the resources from another country? What tax holes are you using? Tax loopholes. Then that all can come under the realm of stealing, of not paying heed to the social rules of the day or natural rules. So in that sense, it does become a little bit of a bigger issue. Right?
Well, and I think there's things like stealing time.
That's a good point.
Or even, when you're hiking in the mountains and you want to take that pine cone, like what are you doing with it? And, are you thanking Mother Nature for it? I mean, I think those are things we forget. Are actually really stealing.
No, that's well put. Yes, with the natural world, right.
And my activity for Asteya is really just sitting with yourself and doing some self-inquiry and asking yourself, where have I stolen time, energy, whatever it is, and where am I being stolen from? And really just take a look at it, because it really gives you an idea of where you're at with your boundaries. And it's something just to think about, and to look at that shadow side of it as well.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, right. Yeah, all these are good. Self-reflection. If we're not honest with ourselves and take time to reflect on these points, then then it's just words that we have to be ready to commit, to sacrifice, to really be honest and give a clear analysis about, hey, how far am I following this? How far am I just living a life of convenience, or am I really trying to apply these principles?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next one is known as brahmacharya. And they say that this one is of the 5 of Yama Niyama, of Yamas, this is the most important one. And it can be the most difficult to follow as well. It's also commonly misconstrued. A lot of sometimes people say that brahmacharya means celibacy, but it doesn't. That's not the sense. The yogis are very clear that whether you're a monk or a family person, both have equal access to the heights of great realization. So it's not a question of whether I have children or whether I don't have children. And so, but if you're going to say that that means celibacy, then you're saying that whatever it is, 99% of the world's population can't follow this point. But the yogic teachings are for everyone, regardless of what role they have in life. And so there is, yogic realization is not based on any type of social role. And it's based on mind. And there are a lot of monks who may not, first of all, there are a lot of monks who aren't really monks. That's one story, but we won't go down that road. That will be for Thursday, or perhaps that will be Thursday's talk. I have that. So,
I can't wait.
yeah, that's a heavy road to travel. But the point is that if a monk is harboring the idea of lust in the mind, and the family person is just very clean mind, that family person's far more developed than the monk.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean to say is there's a history of certain in India where the monks were looked upon as they were on top of the hierarchy, and there is no hierarchy. It's based on mind, not based on social role. And the hierarchy in India was, well, you'll become realized if you're a monk. And if you're a husband, you have to be reborn as a monk. And if you're a wife, you have to be reborn as a male and then be reborn as a monk. So it created this hierarchy of exploitation. And the yogis forget about that. What social role is your social role, and what your mind is, that's the main thing. And so the idea that brahmacharya is celibacy has no merit. What does have merit is that brahmacharya means oneness. It means to see all as the expression of the one. And the derivation of the word is as follows: Brahma, the great oneness of this cosmos, and char means to move. And so the teaching is, wherever you move in this universe, never lose sight that this is all part of the oneness. Never see anything as being disparate, as not connected. And if you always see everything as part of the oneness, you can do justice with each and everything in this world, animate, inanimate object, that they have their inherent right, that they're part of the greater whole. It's kind of like if you really, really cherish your spouse, then you'll cherish your spouse's favorite pen and their shoes and their bank account and you'll do justice with everything related with that spouse. Mm-hmm. And if you love the cosmos, if in your meditation you are very linked with that oneness, then you'll see that oneness in everything. And whether you have a direct experience of that particular expression or not, you'll respect it. You'll treat it with honor and regard. You will not manipulate, devour, demolish. You'll be just with it. And it's so easy to see the disparate. With these crude eyes, it's so easy to chase after, and capitalism preaches that, materialism preaches that, just grab whatever you can and you'll be the victim, and you get rewarded for it. You get prestige for that. Look how much that person grabbed. And that's not the yogic way of living. That we should be just with each and everything, compassionate, and that comes from some type of greater You can't impose that. You can impose it to some degree, but it needs that inner urge, that inner feeling of to look upon the world with that. And that's where we get our contemplative activities, our kirtan, our spiritual practices. They build that sense. When you open your eyes after that, you look upon the world in a new way. And that's why spiritual practice is that. It's a practice. It's just not something that we talk about. It's not just words on a page or a philosophy, that we have to transform the mind. So when we open our eyes, we're going to behave differently in this world, with this world around us. Otherwise, it's, a little bit of hot air. So the practice, and that will grow, and then you can impose it. Hey, I should be, and that external imposition will also help reinforce the idea. So it's an inner and outer thing, both. But that's the spirit of brahmacharya, to look upon all as the expression of the one, or as the supreme.
I love it. Well, and of course, I have a quote from the Dalai Lama, because he's an excellent example of brahmacharya, I feel. Mm-hmm. And he says, when you are discontent, you always want more, more, more. Your desire can never be satisfied. But when you practice contentment, you can say to yourself, oh, yes, I have everything I need.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And a really great practice for this is, there's a couple actually in here. Okay, so one of them is, each day, invite yourself to find at least one miracle about your day and write in your journal about it. And then this one's a little bit long, but I'm going to share it because it's so good. But at least once a day, like during the week, when you sit down to eat, take a moment to explore all the energy that went into the food that is about to enter your body. Think about who made the meal, where the food came from, did it grow from the earth? Think of the sun's energy and the rain and the oxygen. Think of the animal's mother if you're eating animal protein. How did this food get into your hands? Think about the market, the people that work there. So just take time to think of all the people who spent their time and their own energy to bring you that meal.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Nice. No, that's helpful with being connected with the greater, we're not just consumers.
Yes.
Nice.
Carrie has a comment, Satyam.
Okay.
Look at this new thing I learned.
Oh, wow. I like that.
Yeah. So Carrie says, I get a feeling in my low heart when I do not respond in alignment. Is there a name for that?
Wow. Wow. I think that would come in the under the spirit of satya, of being aligned with your heart, of being aligned with your truth, of being aligned with the spirit of benevolence and the spirit of welfare. I would so the point would be, I would say the point is related with satya. I get a feeling in my low heart when I do not. No, that's right. That's right. This happens when someone's developed, that they feel like I have to do justice, and everybody. There's some people with no conscience, right? They can. They can take an old lady's dessert and feel right, just snatch it right out of her hand. The point is that as the mind gets more developed, your conscience will speak to you when you're not living up to what you could live up to. The yogis talk about the first time a thief goes out on the job, his hands are fluttering and he's worried because his conscience is speaking. But after 5 times, 10 times, oh, he's cool as a cucumber, can steal from anybody. At that point, the conscience has been subdued and shut. And so Carrie's point is proper, that you get an automatic alert from your inner self when you feel you're not living up to what you can do in a more conscious, more sentient manner. So her point is, no, that's meaningful. That's well put. And I would just say that's one's inner sense of vivek, or vivek means discrimination, or conscience speaking to them, saying, hey, be careful with what you're doing, how you're behaving here. And that's a positive thing. We all need that.
Yep. So true.
Yeah.
Well, good.
All right. The last one of Yama is one of those words that I wonder how we spell that one. Aparigraha. Aparigraha. Yeah, but there is on the Niyama, there's a trickier one for spelling. But this is aparigraha. Graha, aparigraha. But fortunately, it spells out the way it sounds. And this is to live non-over accumulation, to live in a simple manner. And boy, do we ever need that one in this present era, right?
Yeah.
To not over accumulate, to learn to adjust with the minimal requirements needed for life. And when you do that, it's not just a physical point. It's a point of, like Yama Niyama, when we get to Santosh on the Niyamas, these two are too related. There's a sense of contentment. If you feel you have what you need, it gives a sense of mental ease. Otherwise, capitalism, materialism, like nobody's satisfied. The person who has $10 billion feels like, I got to get more. Well, $10 billion, that's nothing. When they had 10 million, they thought, oh, when I have 10 billion, that'll be great. But when they had 10 million, they got 10 billion. When they went to 10 billion, they're like, I need more. It's that rapacious, non-quenchable, devouring mentality. And no one can sleep at peace with that. No one can be at peace with that type of mentality. Never. They'll never feel like they have enough. And so parigraha works two things. It will give you mental ease, and it will leave some of the resources for those others who need them. Why should we deprive others of resources, of their due right to water, to housing, to basic expenditures? So a parigraha is we should all put our, live in accordance with what we, with the standard of the day, with what we need, and that will change. There was a time where we could all live with a bicycle. Now we can't. We need some type of mechanized, some speedier way of travel as well. So it changes from age to age, but we should always be mindful not to overaccumulate, not to go beyond.
So I have this quote from David Frawley about aparigraha. It is necessary that we renounce everything. Yet the nature of this renunciation has usually been misunderstood and a sense of freedom lost. Renunciation does not mean giving up something, like giving up material things in order to gain something spiritual. Renunciation means not taking things up in the first place, not trying to manipulate things or force our preconceptions onto life. What we must give up is our personal will to control life. To do this, we must be receptive and responsive to things as they are. We must be in harmony with the movement of life that clings to nothing. Renunciation is not an intended action of giving something up, but the freeing of the mind from ulterior motives. There is nothing we have to give up other than our own anxiety to control things.
Wow, nice. That fits.
Totally.
That fits. Nice. Yeah, this is a big point. And I mean, because especially if you're raised in a capitalist or materialistic society, which is spreading all over these days, you're taught that the more there's the old bumper sticker, whoever dies with the most toys wins, right? I mean, there you go. Yep. When that mentality is imposed, there's no peace and there's no justice. There's no contentment. Nice.
So true.
All right. So we have now completed our jamas, our 5 jamas of how we interact with the world and what should be our mindset and our path to proceed. And these are large points. I mean, they can be expanded upon and applied in all different manners, and they're always up for discussion, but that's the seed or kernel of them. And now let's go to niyama. And these are generally more within ourselves, within our unit self. The first one is soch, and it's different ways to spell it. Sometimes people spell it S-H-A-U-C-H-A. The Roman Sanskrit would do it S-H-A-O-C-A. The C has a cha sound. So
wait, say that other one.
S-H-A-O. The way I would spell it was S-H-A-O-C-A.
Wow. Okay. So let me see if I have that right. One of those 2 ways.
Yeah. The second one. Good for you.
Okay.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, because I learned Saucha. That's
Yeah,
definitely not correct.
Yeah. South is also okay. It's not. There's the funny thing that the A is not really an A. It's part of the last C, and so it's a sound, not a ah sound. So you should say Saucha that would be wrong. But Soch or Socha, like a little small A sound, a little small. Depending where you go in India, they would Soch or Socha. That's okay, but not Soch. So it's kind of like a muted A. Soch.
Soch or Socha.
So,
okay.
No,
we need to have a Sanskrit class.
Yeah. And I'll jump into then that and that first A in Sanskrit. It's the first A in Sanskrit. It's like for those who studied French, sans, S-A-N-S. It means without. That would be the pronunciation of the first 4 letters of Sanskrit. Sanskrit. Yeah. But the tongue, the way the Indian languages and way Sanskrit, it's not easy for the Western. We actually have an upcoming talk on Sanskrit. We're going to do it, but that tongue, the gymnastics the tongue has to do is not easy, or to speak without aspirating any air. It's a challenge. Some language groups do that. Most of the Western languages do not. But anyway, we're going to get to that. That's an upcoming talk.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. So Soch, it means purity or cleanliness. Cleanliness of your mind, cleanliness of your body, cleanliness of your surroundings. And that, I think most traditions have this sense, but we all know what thoughts come into our mind. And if you can clean up those thoughts where they don't enter the mind, then that's one of the highest expressions of Soch, where you're not even having to say, oh my gosh, why am I thinking that? Or I don't want to get it where that idea doesn't even come in. And that comes through cultivating a positive ideal, through living our meditation and having the mind really ensconced in that meditative endeavor. Then those other types of thoughts, degrading, demeaning types of thoughts won't come in, those non-pure thoughts.
Yeah.
But,
well, one thing I really love about this particular niyama is there is a direct link between toxicity in the body and the toxicity in the mind, spiritually, energetically. And so that idea of cleanliness, Satyam, it really spoke to me because I had to go through a period where I had to purify parasites, and then I had to purify mold and candida and all these things. So I went through these highly disciplined, which I know we're going to get to tapas, but I went through these highly disciplined periods where I had to purify my body. But what happened was I was chanting and mindful, and I had to really think through what I was eating, and it became this purification of the mental space and the spiritual space, so far beyond the body purification I was doing. And so this is such a potent niyama. It's like so important because that process of purification is what prepares you for that next awakening, that next experience, self-realization. I mean, I just think it's really important.
That is so true. I'm so glad you raised that. That is so key. The link between mind and body is so inherent with us that, if we put junk in the body, it's going to have a junkyard effect on the mind. It does. And so your socha, I mean, here we talk about, avoiding all intoxicants and being careful with any type of stimulant, even the caffeine we take, anything that affects the central nervous system. And what the purification process you went through is so good. Sometimes people can try and purify themselves, but it'll create an offshoot in the mind that they become agitated or angry because they're living a life of deprivation. But what you did, it was so beautiful because you purified your body and you were going through your chanting and your meditations and those things where the mind also, where it happened in concert, where the mind did not undergo a negative reaction because of feeling deprived, but as the mind was becoming elevated through that process, it could handle the physical purification in a very balanced way. That's so important. That's so key.
Yeah. Well, and some activities you guys can do with the purification. I mean, in Ayurveda, they even floss their nostrils in Ayurveda, you guys. It's all about cleanliness. But get a tongue scraper. And I actually have a blog article about tongue scraping if you want to know why and how to do it. It's on my website. But get yourself a tongue scraper and do some tongue scraping. That's a great physical practice you can do to really help remove all of those. There's bacteria and there's sulfur. There's all these things that your body works really hard to bring to the surface every night. But while you're doing something like a tongue scraping or lymph brushing, dry brushing the skin, something like that, you can also do a self-inquiry, thinking about, what are you cleaning off of yourself? What are you removing from your body energetically? That's like my daily practice. Trust me. I dry brush and tongue scrape every day. And my lymph nodes went from being swollen off and on and having different issues to they're totally healthy.
Yeah, I introduced tongue scraping. I got a delivery of a few hundred tongue scrapers from India. Then about 10 years ago, distributed them to all my students. First thing in the morning, scrape that tongue, and you can find around here. I've had people who, after a week of tongue scraping, all sorts of nasal issues that they've had were cleared up.
Yeah, and skin too. Like my skin will clear out. Like I can't tell you. Going from I don't know, the normal way of living, I guess, in the United States, which is you have your Crest toothpaste and you brush your teeth too. I have tea tree oil swishing. I use a powder instead of a toothpaste, and I tongue scrape. And I cannot tell you, a girl who has fought with periodontal and had to go in like every 3 months to have a completely normal dental experience just from that. And that doesn't include, just like you're saying, Satyam, the incredible changes in the physical body from really taking care of this space. This is an important space. And it goes so much with Soch, because that's part of it, part of that cleanliness. And it links to other yamas and niyamas, I think, when it links to, the self-inquiry piece and connecting with yourself and self-care. So anyways, not to go on.
No, it's good. All these are interlinked. And Soch, the point of Soch, as someone once told me, that point is vast. It's related with everything.
Mm-hmm.
Second one of Niyama is Santosh. And it means, this one also can have a few spellings, but generally you'll see it as Santosha. Some people take off the H and put an accent on the S because it's a different type of S, but Santosh, pretty much how it sounds. And it means mental ease. And this is the one that I was talking about that's linked with the parigraha of not going after overaccumulation. That the parigraha and Soch, that if you be at ease with what you have and physically, and if you pursue psychic and psycho-spiritual pursuits, that will help your ease and not have that overzealous approach to accumulation of physical sphere. So those two are really, otherwise there's no end to how many swimming pools or how many Mercedes-Benz you want. It's endless. You'll never be satisfied. That's why I won't, not to mention their names, but there was a famous so-called yoga teacher in Southern California who used to show off his collection of Rolls Royces. Well, we know he wasn't following Yama Niyama. It's just like he thought that he was preaching to all the materialists of Los Angeles and trying to get his prestige that way. Little did he know that he totally buried his estimation in the eyes of the yogis. He said, "Hey, where's your Yama Niyama?" So this Santosh is that to be in a state of mental ease. And when we feel that way, we're better. We're better with ourselves. We're better with others. We think, okay, things are okay the way they are, and I'm refining myself. But it gives a sense of contentment, and that's important. Everybody needs that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Third one. We got 3 more left. One is tapa, And that means to sacrifice for the goal. And this one has a variety of implications. Like brahmacharya, where there was a long-standing misunderstanding. In brahmacharya, people thought it meant celibacy. It really doesn't. And we covered that earlier in this talk. That tapa, sometimes people do. In India, there was this thing that, well, I'll just do anything. I'll do anything for self-torture, and that will purify me. I'm going to stand on one leg all night in the water and stand in tree pose all night. Or I'm going to put myself upside down and put my head near a fire pit. These types of things are just self-abuse. They have nothing to do with tapa. When you sacrifice for the goal, it has to be for the sacrifice of someone else's welfare and well-being, or towards moving towards a spiritual goal. You just can't make up some type of self-torture activity, call it tapa, and think you got some spiritual benefit. Forget it. Your basket will be empty. You don't get anything from that. Tapa means when you sacrifice for the goal. Sometimes we do fasting. Fasting is not to deprive ourselves. It's to help purify the mind or help purify the body. Or we will undergo difficulty to help someone else. That's tapasya, to help, that type of, where we're not making it up, we're following a discipline that is logical, that is rational, that has not just anything, thinking that by this abuse of myself, then I'm getting some spiritual gain. It's not that cheap. It has to be for the welfare. It has to be some greater thing. And one other point related with this is that sometimes people undergo economic hardship to help others, and that's good. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to donate money and you're not going to ensure how that money's spent, and that money's misspent, you're part of that negative cycle. So when you donate, a lot of people in the West like to donate to causes, but you just can't donate and think, okay, my job is done. You need to make sure it's going to a proper place, that the money's being well spent. If that money's being spent going into someone's pocket or going into the selfish endeavor, then your attempt at tapa through economic hardship is fruitless. It has to be done. So always investigate. Always investigate where you call them up, find out where your money's going, and you investigate that. Don't just think that. Don't become a blind do-gooder. That doesn't work.
I laugh because I talk about that a lot with my husband. He and I do, because you really do. Research and understanding is important for sure. Yes. I have a couple things. Both of these about tapa is from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. He says mastery of yogic powers in the body and sensory organs result from the removal of impurities due to tapas. Through self-study, union with one's desired God is achieved.
Yeah, nice.
So, those are both from him. And the other one is Nityananda, which this is one of Julie's favorite quotes, which is, "The heart is the hub of all holy places. Go there and roam." So those are some great ones. Yeah.
They both work. Very suitable, very apropos for tapa.
Yeah, and I think a great activity you guys can do for that is really just look at the content you're consuming. Do a great tapa exercise is to go through your email and just clean out everything that's not aligned with your highest good. Subscribe, delete things, just clear out the space, because I did this a few years ago with when I was on Facebook, and I went through and I just unfollowed all the stuff that was not speaking to me. And I saw, it took about a year, but I saw my feed become so rich, and that's what the Ajatakasa app really is. It's this, rich space that's, conscious and creative and inspiring. And, so even just a simple activity of cleaning out what you're consuming, visually and with words is really important, because that's going to help you with that discipline and removing impurities.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that stuff sits in the mind. It's not like you open it sits there. It becomes part of your mental composition. It's very, very important. This is a point absolutely well taken. Yeah. All right. Number 4. This is probably one of the trickier ones to spell. Swadhyay.
Which I totally say wrong. Oh my gosh, but it's my favorite, one of my favorite ones. Okay, so say the pronunciation again.
Swadhyay.
Swadhyay. Okay. Swadhyay.
Yeah, and hey, perfect spelling. Very nice. Very nice. So yes, Swadhyay is proper understanding of the tenets of the philosophy of scripture, of teachings, the right application. So many people have the right teaching, they misapply it, and it doesn't, like brahmacharya, and they'll use it for their own gain, but the right understanding of the teaching. And the funny thing is, this will benefit you, because if anyone starts elaborating or espousing a particular point, it will come back to bite you, because people will realize, hey, that wasn't right what you were saying. You may get away with it for a short term, but it'll come back. And ultimately, we all want to be philosophically consistent. And it's also that the idea that we should speak about what we understand. We should be very clear with others about what we're not sure about, what we are sure about. And this is something that comes up a lot in the realm of spirituality. Don't start going on and on about stuff that you're not really sure of. You won't look good in the long run, and it doesn't serve anybody. So we want to really get set on our understanding and then project that. And then, we're not omniscient. If there's something you don't say, hey, this one I'm still working on, or there's a few different interpretations, I'm not sure which is right, that we should be really open and honest. But at the same time, we should be disciplined to try and always learn more and really enhance our knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. Well, and this particular niyama, the self-study, the self-inquiry, we talk about it all the time on this show, it's really important to really look at yourself. I always go back to the Dalai Lama's book, How to See Yourself as You Really Are. And that's a great book to read if you're practicing Swadhyay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
No, perfect. That was good. Yeah, that was good. We could put that as a sound file if someone wants to learn the pronunciation. That was spot on.
I love it.
Good. All right. Well, we're getting close to the end of the hour, and this is number 10. So there are 5 jamas and 5 niyamas. Now, the most important one on the jama side is brahmacharya, of seeing everything as expression of the supreme, of seeing the oneness in all. Nothing is disparate. Everything's connected. Everything's to be valued. And then they say the most important on the niyama side is Ishwar Pranidhan. Ishwar Pranidhan. And it means, perfect spelling again, nicely done. That it means, Ishwar means controller. And it's really a meditation lesson, a lesson where we ensconce the mind in supreme thought. It's to align the mind with our greater universal I, not with our individual I. And that's how we get mental expansion. That's how we get growth in the spiritual realm. And that's how we fight off the degradation and narrow-mindedness and myopia of capitalism and materialism, of all those egotistical ways of living. That to really ensconce the mind in spiritual thought. And it's a meditation, not just to shut down the senses from external physicality and go within and explore that inner world and realize that we have an inner personality that taps into something beyond what we see physically. And that is just so important. It's like the backbone of spirituality. The backbone of yogic spirituality is when I close my eyes, it's not that I'm not seeing externally. It's that I am opening up the doorway internally, and that mind can grow and realize and do things that we don't realize we can do. Mm-hmm. And so that's how that's that whole gateway. And the more we go in there, the more accessible it becomes. And the more we feel yearning and desire to go ahead and delve deeper into it. it's just like when you read a book the first time and you kind of get the outline. You read it again, you read more and more. If it's a good book, if it's a meaningful book, you get more and more out of it. Our meditation is like that. It's so dynamic. And Ishwar Pranidhan, that's like opening up the whole spectrum of life, of that we have an inner place to go, an inner world to explore. And that's inherent part of our, the yogis say the human person is trifarious: physical, psychic, spiritual. And that psychic and spiritual exists in an invisible realm within our minds. And that there is so much to explore there and so much to be had there. And when we do that, we're all the better in the physical realm. And people recognize it. And it's just so good for our overall. And it's all of us giving ourselves opportunity to explore, to invite ourselves to realize what we have inherent within.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And I have a video teaching of Ishwar Pranidhan in the app. So if you guys are in the Ajatakasa app, if you go to the Light Library, so you're going to go to the Institute, Light Library, Spiritual Development, it's right in there. And it's a whole surrender practice to just release and surrender, which is a huge part of, our journey right now as a collective, I think. And Carrie's sharing, she says, your enthusiasm is contagious. Your passion for the yogic way is palpable. Thank you. And all sorts of thank yous. Thank you, guys. Anne says, thank you. These reminders are helpful as I try to progress along my path. Nice. So thank you guys so much for your thank yous and comments and donations and everything. So it's really lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And just to pick up on, you've said that word surrender, and that's so key. It's so key of Ishwar Pranidhan, that, and in the wild west, if you surrender, you lose everything, right? Some guy comes at you with guns, they're going to take all the gold in your pocket. In spirituality, it's the exact opposite. By surrendering your unit ego, you get everything. And that's what the surrender is in spirituality: surrendering the unit and getting the vast. And it's something that's we're all working on.
I can't believe we did it in an hour.
Yeah, we did. We got it through. We got through it.
Well, I have an idea. So everyone out there who haven't downloaded the Ajatakasa community app, please do. It's in the app stores and it's free, and the community is free. When you get into the app, you can join the Yogis group. We have a whole group, and Satyam is our community leader for that group. But here's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to post this video replay instead of in Buddhist Biohacker. I'm going to post it in the Yogis group. And Satyam, what do you think about us doing some Yama and Niyama activities, maybe focus on one a week for the next few weeks, and let's see if we can't, integrate some of this.
That's great. That's a wonderful idea. Yeah, that's a great way. It'll take us from spring right into summer. We'll go through it one a week, and let's see what folks have to say, reflections, ways they're applying it. I think that's great. Let's do
it. Let's do it. So I'll post the video, and Satyam, you post which one we're going to focus on first, and we'll share some activities, and let's keep working on it, you guys, because I think you can never work on these enough. Like there's always work to do here.
No, there is. This is a long, right. There's not a weekend endeavor. It takes the whole lifetime. Yeah, great.
Totally. Now, before we go, please share with everybody your website, where they can find you, all that good information.
Sure. I am at Renaissance Yoga, or Ren Yoga. You don't like to spell Renaissance, RENYOGA, renyoga.com. I teach 7 days a week. These days, all live online classes. There's also replays. And you under Renaissance Yoga or Ren Yoga, you can find me. And you can find me in the Ajatakasa app under, I think, Ren Yoga, Satyam Ren Yoga. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Satyam. This has been great teaching, as always.
My favorite platform to come on and be able to talk in our nice, open, vast arena and explore all the great ideas of this universe. It's a wonderful gift you've offered us. I appreciate it.
Oh, well, I love it. I missed you, and I'm excited because we're back with Satyam and Julie Loyal on Thursday to talk about spiritual community, which is another juicy topic, as you said. You know,
Yes,
I went to university for a while at Naropa, which is founded by Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, who has lots of spiritual controversy around his community. So it's going to be a great topic for us to just talk about what spiritual community is all about and how not to get caught up in some of the corruption that happens out there, for sure. Because it happens everywhere.
Yeah. No, if anyone's ready for a dynamic talk, that's the one. Come on, we'll see you Thursday, 5 p.m. East Coast time and 3 p.m. Mountain time.
Yes, for sure. So, all right. Well, I love you guys so much. And I think I will be back at 11 a.m. on Thursday morning with Sue Hunt, one of our Diamond Beauties. And then, yes, as Satyam said, I'll be back at 3 p.m. Mountain time to talk about spiritual community with Satyam and Julie. Thank you for watching. I will see you guys in the app, and we'll just keep honing our skills. Thank you so much, Satyam.
Thank you. Wonderful. Great seeing everyone. Thank you. Stay well.
Thanks, everyone.